Days after his brother opened up to Oprah Winfrey about troubles within the royal family, Prince William is pushing back this morning against accusations of racism.
The royal family a racist family, sir?
We're very much not a racist family.
And we want to talk about another important aspect of Meghan and Harry's interview, the moment when Meghan revealed how she'd struggled with suicidal thoughts while under constant scrutiny by the media. Here's a little of what she said.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
Dr. George James joins us now. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist with the Council for Relationships. Dr. James, good to have you with us this morning. So first of all, just what was your reaction to hearing Meghan's candid conversation with Oprah Winfrey about her struggle with suicidal thoughts?
Good morning. I was a bit shocked because we don't always hear someone in the public of that stature kind of share their inner thoughts. But as a practitioner and clinician, I was grateful that she was willing to share how much she has struggled, how much racism, sexism, the impact of everything that she's had to go through has made her thought about like taking her own life, and that she was willing to share that with her husband and willing to share that with everyone that watched. And so that it just talks about how the impact of racial trauma can bring anyone in any place, in any stature to a point where they might think not living and not being alive might be a better option and a better solution. That's
such a good point. Anyone of any stature, because I think we often look at people and think, how could they struggle? They must not understand what I'm feeling, and that's just not the case. We heard Meghan talk about feelings of shame around this. Many people are afraid to discuss any mental health issues and certainly suicidal thoughts because it's so stigmatized. How could Meghan's honest conversation with Oprah help change the perception of what it looks like to struggle with these issues?
No, my hope is that people will recognize that they have challenges on their own and that sometimes these thoughts come. It's actually more normal and natural than we realize, that throughout the course of a life, somebody might think about hurting themselves or harming themselves. The challenge is that when we get to the place where we think about this constantly, when we start to think about even plans or ways, or where we feel like where she shared at a dangerous place where I can't be left alone. That could be a single mother not being able to handle or afford the bills. That could be someone dealing with crisis or other trauma. That could be someone after an assault. That could be anyone in any place, in any situation where you can be so overwhelmed and so lost and so alone and so trapped that you feel like the only solution is to take your life. And we can't determine who feels that way and who doesn't. All we can do is support the person, help the person, and maybe allow them to feel some relief and get the help and support that they need.
Dr. James, Meghan also talked about her conversations with Harry and her desire to get help. So many people right now are feeling isolated 1 year into this pandemic. What's your advice on how people can get help right now if they're struggling?
What I appreciated about the interview is the honesty and the openness, which I would want for any couple, any family, any individual to be honest and open with those that you care about. I also appreciated Harry's honesty, Prince Harry's honesty, that he felt some shame and embarrassment because the stigma around mental health and suicidality is real. And so I think for anyone, especially this year with COVID and all that we've experienced, the racial injustice and so many things, political, economic, that you could be overwhelmed and to go to the nearest hospital if you feel like you want to take your life, or to call a professional, call your doctor, call a psychiatrist, seek help, tell somebody, be open and transparent, just like we saw with this couple.
And Dr. James, I'm wondering two things. First, if you can just address how damaging it is when we're seeing some things in media that's essentially doubting if she felt that way. I mean, everyone is entitled to their feelings, and they are doing us a service by sharing them. And then also, just can you tell individuals what they can do if someone does come to them and say they're struggling? How can you best support someone who is dealing with these types of mental health struggles?
You know, I think it's unfortunate that we're in a place, and we've been here in lots of different ways, where we don't validate people's stories. There's so many people of marginalized backgrounds, people of color, women, or people of different sexual orientation, where their stories are just not heard or validated. They're put down. And it's almost what we call, in quotes, kind of crazy making, where you have your truth and it is not shared or experienced or validated or even criticized or critiqued. That is a hard thing to experience. And then the other part of what you shared is that, once again, if you're in a place where maybe that has happened to you, you are struggling, you're overwhelmed, and people are not hearing you, sometimes you got to make sure that people hear that I am in a bad place, I need help, or I'm just going to go get help. And that could be, once again, go to the nearest hospital, call 911, call a doctor, a psychiatrist, get therapy, get help, talk to your spiritual advisor. Call any and everyone, bring everyone to the table so that you can get the support and help that you need.
Dr. George James, thank you so much for all that advice and for taking the time to talk about this important issue. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And of course, if you do need to talk to someone, there is also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It is available 24/7 at 1-800-273-TALK.